Okay. Let's drink some coffee first. And yeah, I've moved over to drinking coffee from teacups. Blame it on motherhood. And being a student. That combination is sometimes harsh. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tess Waltenberg if you don't know me yet, and on this channel I share a lot of ideas on what you can do to live a slower and more sustainable life. Today I want to talk to you about low impact living and sustainable living and how to get started. This will not be a 5-step guide, it will not be a structured video telling you exactly what to do, but more an inspiration on what you can do with the things you're doing in your life and your habits and in general your circumstances. I think it's really important to remember that we all have different lives and different circumstances, and we live in different places and we have different grocery stores and all of that, and also our past history. For example, one of the reasons why I'm not going completely vegan is because I've had an eating disorder, and putting too strict rules could actually be very damaging for me. And also when it comes to where you live, if you live in the countryside or in the forest and you have no trains and no possibility to take the bike or walk, then of course selling the car may not be your first option. So I think it's important to get started with what you have in your life. So let's dive into this video. First, I want to talk to you about what low impact living means for me. And I think there are very many different words when it comes to sustainable living, and maybe sometimes it can be hard to identify yourselves with them because you're just getting started and you don't want to get stuck under some kind of label. And of course change is scary, and when we put labels on things it might seem so much harder. When it comes to veganism, for example, if you feel like you can't go completely vegan, then you don't eat anything plant-based at all. So why I really like low impact living is because for me it's very including. It's more of a general word or expression for trying to reduce your impact in different ways. Because as you know, I make videos about zero waste, I talk a lot about foraging and growing your own foods and slow living and slow fashion. But to me, sustainability is really the bigger picture and looking at your own life and seeing, okay, what can I do with what I have in my life right now? Because you may look at me or someone else who's been doing this for years and think, oh, I could never do that, but we've all started somewhere. For example, I've been eating partly vegan for a very long time, and I've learned new recipes, I know what products I can use, and of course that knowledge is what made it easier for me to make the transition to an almost entirely plant-based diet. So my first advice is look at your own life. If you can do a carbon footprint calculator, do that and see what area of your life has the highest carbon footprint. And also look at your food. What do I wear? What do I eat? How do I transport myself? How do I live? What do I own and consume? And try to reflect upon what you could do to change that with your circumstances. Maybe it would be easier for you to eat more plant-based. Maybe you could swap clothes with friends or go thrift shopping now and then. The best solutions are the ones that are applicable to your life. And when you've done this list, or however you want to do it, start with the things that don't give anything to your life. And I think this is really hard because we sometimes tell ourselves that all of these things add life quality because that's what they're branded to do. And some of them might actually do that. You may enjoy fashion, for example. And even though there are sustainable ways of doing that, maybe it's easier to start with the areas that don't give something to your life. So, for example, if it would be a very small change for you to take the bike to work, start by doing that. If you don't really care what you eat for breakfast, then start having a vegan breakfast, and so on and so on. Start with the changes that feels easiest to go through with. And when you've done those changes, you can probably start going to harder and harder changes as you go along. And my second advice is actually in one way contrasting to that, because it is to challenge yourself. Once you've done these easy things and seen that it's quite possible to live a sustainable life, try to challenge yourself and go all in on something for a short period of time. For example, I did zero waste totally during January. I bought no plastic and I really tried to find solutions. This isn't maybe something that you would get started with when you've just found an interest in sustainability, but it gave me so many different ideas that I bring along with me, even though I don't live entirely plastic free right now. I've also done a vegan challenge where I only ate vegan for, it was almost a year. I did some exceptions, mostly in social situations. And I also think that taught me a lot about products that I wouldn't probably have tried in another situation. And I tried very many new products just because I had this challenge. I learned new recipes, I found new sources of inspiration, and to me that was really refreshing to see that I could do this completely if I wanted to, if I wouldn't have had the reasons that I have not to go completely vegan. So if you feel that it works for you, like I said, this is all individual. You have to ask yourselves what you think would motivate you and be challenging and inspiring in some way. But if you think that this would give you something, then try it. And of course, there are also a lot of great slow fashion challenges. I know people who have only worn 10 pieces for 10 days and tried different combinations. You could also try not to buy anything new over a period of time and see what that brings to you. My next advice may seem a little bit provocative. It's actually about looking at your relationships, and if you feel provoked to live an unsustainable life, or encouraged, if you surround yourself with people who shop a lot or eat a lot of meat, or who encourage people to travel by plane, or whatever it can be. I'm not saying that you should break all contact with these people, definitely not. But what I do think you should do is try to find people with your values. Even if it's online, even if it's physical, try to have relationships where you can find inspiration. Because in my experience and when talking to friends, a lot of people feel discouraged to live sustainably because no one around them does. And I think that really brings your efforts down. And if you feel like you get a lot of negative comments on eating plant-based or doing something like that, and that you feel like you're being a burden for other people, that will probably not help you in the process. And talking about relationships, be mindful of what you bring into your life, no matter if it's new relationships, new things, new habits, because I think that a lot of these things that we do that are unsustainable actually don't give us anything in our lives. We've just been taught that to maximize every single part of our life and to consume our ways to happiness is the best way to go, and we do that without thinking since it's a norm in society. So try, if you can, to be mindful of what you bring into your life. Tiny coffee break. And last but not least, find sources of inspiration. I think many people talk about the sacrifices we need to make to create a more sustainable future, and of course I'm very well aware that we need to do drastic changes to save the planet, but I also think it's important to get inspired and do fun things and find the joy in being sustainable, because if you just feel like it's a constant sacrifice, first of all, you give that to yourself and you feel that negative energy and anxiety, and also you give the image to other people who aren't living a sustainable life. because I think that the best way to get others along is to show how fun it can be, how inspiring it can be to live a sustainable life. Like for me, every single thing I've done to live a more sustainable life that I thought would be a sacrifice that I did for the good cause has actually given me so much in return. When I started foraging, I saw pretty much everything around me as just something green. Of course, I appreciated parks and green areas and all of that, but I just saw it as a green blur. Now I can see healing herbs and edible plants, and I see everything I can do with it. Even when it comes to weeds, since nettles, for example, are great for so many different reasons. And I just see the world from a totally different perspective. And since we started decluttering, we have more time for ourselves and for our kids and for each other. And I think we need to start talking more about the benefits of living a sustainable life for ourselves in our lives. Not because we don't need to make sacrifices, but because we have so much to gain from those sacrifices. And if you need to, also go online. There are so many great sources of inspiration on social media. And even though I think the digital world can be quite destructive in some ways, I think we can also use it for a lot of good. Because usually we're quite stuck in our own social context, and it can really lower our energy to be constantly surrounded by people who don't care or don't try or get provoked by our efforts. But I think social media is a great place to be inspired and find others who try to live a sustainable life. And also remember, when I talked about being provoked by people around you, I think most people get provoked when they can't justify their own actions. Of course, this doesn't talk for everyone, but in my experience, people who can stand for their own actions, people who have reasons behind what they do and feel that it's actually right, wouldn't be provoked by someone else acting differently or thinking differently. And that has helped me a lot to bear that with me and remind myself that, okay, this person is probably provoked by me eating plant-based because they don't feel like they can justify eating what they do or doing what they do, and you are probably a reminder of that. So yes, that was some general advice on how to get started with low impact living. And I would love to know what your thoughts are on this subject in general. What are your experiences? Are you trying to live a low impact life, or do you feel like you've come far? What are your best advice to someone who's just getting started? Please share down below in the comment section, and hit thumbs up if you like the video, and of course hit subscribe if you like what I do. And I hope to talk to you more about sustainable living soon, and I hope you want to follow my work. Bye! Have a nice week!